Welcome to the Farming Without the Bank podcast, the show with a no BS approach to money, hosted by a farm strategy expert and authorized IBC practitioner. Join us as we get real and expose the flaws of traditional financial institutions in order to help farmers take control of their finances, create peace of mind, grow their wealth, and leave a legacy. Now, here's your host, Mary Jo Irmen.
Hello, and welcome to today's podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in, coming back, whatever. I appreciate the fact that you're here, and I do appreciate the fact that I keep getting all these awesome emails about how everybody can't wait for Friday mornings for their podcast to come out. So that's awesome. But you guys, I don't know what you want to hear. So that's great. But you're making me work hard over here. Give me some suggestions about what you want me to talk about, because it always makes my life a little bit easier. So today we're going to dive into some estate planning, and I have really been trying to avoid this topic because I'm not an attorney. I'm not an accountant. And I have been trying to get an accountant on here to interview. And I have one, but guess what? He's super busy with PPE loans and COVID crap that is going on. And he does not have time. Now everything's been, extended to July. And it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And so I have not gotten him on. And I have not had time myself to schedule time with the attorney that I want to have on and review his information. However, this topic that I'm going to talk about today is a lot of my personal opinions without knowing a lot as of to why maybe some things are structured. So yeah, I'm just talking about opinions, and I personally can't stand opinions. However, let me just share some maybe common sense with all of you. So I have had a lot of, obviously my clientele has become quite young just because of the fact that most of those people are looking for something better to do, better ways to do it. They're asking questions. They're not buying in to everything that's been done the same way for 100 years. And so they see this concept, they understand it, and they want to dive in right away, which I think is fantastic. But with that comes a lot of estate planning questions. Most people do not have the answers because, let's just be honest, mom and dad don't plan. And in some cases, mom and dad don't even have the land yet because grandpa and grandma are still alive. I've actually been seeing the fact that we are passing land off, or we're passing an operation off, and we're skipping a generation. That generation right now that's in their mid-50s, 60s, they've never even got to own it. And so I actually put a post on Facebook about this a few weeks ago, how if we're in our 20s and we think mom and dad need to have a plan and we want everything all laid out and we see the bigger vision. And I just said, hey, step back for 1 sec. And if mom and dad just got that land in the last 5 to 10 years, just let them breathe a little bit. And it was really eye-opening to me how many negative comments I got on that post versus a post that says, hey, mom and dad, make sure you hand it off and don't die with that land. Let the kids have an opportunity to purchase it. And I don't get any negative comments then. And so to me, it was eye-opening. Mom and dad were willing to take my advice, or were willing to accept my 2 cents when I say, hey, mom and dad, sell to the next generation. But when I say, hey, the next generation, you need to relax a little bit, then all I hear is negativity. So come on, you guys. Seriously, like I get there's different circumstances for every situation. I get that. But if mom and dad are giving you some grace and they're not yelling on Facebook, because they're there, mom and dad are out there, they're on my Facebook page. If they're not yelling on the Facebook page, can we just give them a little bit of grace as well? And if you're in your 20s, early 30s, we cannot expect them to just hand it over at that point if mom and dad are only in their 60s. If they want to, that's great. If you need to make a plan B and you're younger and mom and dad aren't talking about it, they refuse to talk about it, then plan B is can you buy your own land? It's something that my own brother did. He worked in town so that he could buy his own land and he didn't have to wait for it. And because God only knows, right? Is there planning? Is there not planning? What is going on with your family operation? And do we want to just wait to have the opportunity to buy it? So yeah, I'm going to probably tick somebody off very early on in this podcast. But you guys, that is the problem with this whole estate planning business is nobody wants to talk about anything. And then as soon as we do talk about it, we're all ticked off about it because it's all very personal. Can we just have a conversation so that nobody's screaming and yelling at each other and we all just try to understand where the other person is? Can we just do that? And then if they want to be stubborn and not sell, can we just respect that and say, okay, what's my plan B so that I can continue to farm and make that plan B? And so if mom and dad want to hand it off and they want to talk about it and they have strategies, great, let's talk about those strategies. And let's talk about the strategies. It's not an all or nothing approach. And I have these new clients that I was working with about 2 weeks ago. And the strategy is, and this is most strategies out there, and I'm going to tell you up front, this strategy just kind of drives me a little bit crazy, but here's the strategy. Mom and dad are going to sell the operation, are going to rent the operation to the son on the farm, okay? So let's say we've got a brother and 2 sisters that don't farm, or we've got one on the farm and 2 or 3 siblings, 10 siblings that don't farm. I really don't care how many there are. So one is on the farm. He's out there doing all the work. And in this case, it is a he. I'm not going to be gender specific. So he's on the farm and he's farming. And mom and dad say, okay, we want to quit and you're going to rent the operation. So you're going to rent it for whatever our living expenses need to be covered for. Great. Mom and dad, let's say mom and dad are 65. They could very easily live another 30 years. So we're going to rent the operation for the next 30 years at their living expenses. This is the typical estate plan that I see. So after 30 years then, when we pass away, you're going to buy out your off-the-farm siblings. And we have this life insurance policy that we were paying, but now you get to pay for it. As soon as you start renting the land, we're going to turn it over to you and you get to pay for it. So when we die, you get to use that death benefit and you can buy out your siblings. Well, that sounds like a great strategy, right? Here's my issue with it. If the farm kid rents the ground for 30 years for your living expenses, are the costs of those living expenses for 30 years fixed? Because we have inflation. Do those living expenses have to go up? What happens today when you say, I need $70,000 to live, and then you have inflation. And now all of a sudden it costs $90,000 to live. What happens when those living expenses go up to $85,000 a year? Who's going to make up the other $15,000? Right? So the farm kid is now paying more because mom and dad need to live for 30 years. And they've paid the premium on the policy that goes to the off the farm kids. Let's say that premium is $10,000 a year. And then when mom and dad pass away, they now get to purchase out their siblings. Again, for 30 years they rented it, and now they get to buy it and use it as collateral. For 30 years, they didn't have any collateral. They're just making a rent payment. Why isn't this a contract for deed? So that they have collateral for 30 years. You know, I've always said that we buy the farm from the bank with every generation, when in fact, most who are doing it this way are buying it twice, once through rent, and then again, when mom and dad pass away, they have to buy out the siblings. Now, an estate planner may say, okay, when you start renting the land, now you take over the $10,000 premium payment. Why? If I'm buying the land, why am I taking over the $10,000 premium payment? Why can't mom and dad just keep the premium payment? And then as the beneficiaries, they just leave it to the off the farm kids. Why am I taking over the ownership of it just to leave it to the off the farm kids? If I'm going to pay for it, why don't I just pay for it through rent so I can expense it? Otherwise, the life insurance premium isn't an expense. It's just a bill. So why don't you do me a favor and let me expense it, and I'll just pay you more rent? Yes, you're going to have more rental income. You are. Okay. Right? Either I don't get to expense it, or you've got the rental income. The only reason we would change ownership is to get it out of mom and dad's estate. So if they go to the nursing home doesn't make you drain the cash value. But if we're going to give that policy to the farm kid, he owns it. He now can say, hey, I'm going to take you guys off as beneficiaries. You're not going to get any of this money. If it's there for estate planning, it's a policy upon mom and dad's death, why not just let mom and dad control it? Why not count it in as their part of their living expenses? And my rent covers that. And I've said it a million times, why not just do a contract for deed? So that over those 30 years, the land is done. It's sold. The farm kid owns it. He's paid for it. And then I hear, well, but then what happens when mom and dad die? What do the siblings get? Well, whatever mom and dad had left over. I'm an off the farm kid, you guys. I do not farm. My brother farms. Guess what? If he's doing a contract for deed with my parents and he buys that all before they pass away and they've pissed away all their money and there's nothing left for my other brother and I, oh well, poor money management on my parents' side, right? Why do I deserve any of it? I'm not there doing the work. Just because I was born there doesn't mean I deserve it. If my brother did not farm and they sold it to Johnny next door and they had all this money come in, would I still expect Johnny to buy me out? No, because they sold it. I wouldn't expect anything, or I would hope that they don't spend it all so that there's some inheritance. But is it really up to me to decide what my parents do with their money? No. So what does it matter if they sell it to one of the kids or none of the kids? If they sell it to one of the kids, they're getting the money. If they want to leave something, if you're the parent and you want to leave something to your other kids because you feel that it's necessary, because apparently that's what you do in the farming world, or you're the bad guy, then great. Figure out how much money you want to leave them and either put it in a savings account, buy a life insurance policy with it, buy a vacation home and leave the vacation home, whatever. But if you sold it to Johnny next door, would you say, okay, well, Johnny, here's the deal. I'm going to do a contract for deed with you, or I'm going to rent it to you, but, I want my kids to have something. Okay? At least Johnny knows that, I guess. Right? But why wouldn't you just rent it to him and then figure out how to make more money? Because you're getting paid for it regardless if it's today or tomorrow. You're getting paid. If I have a business in town, and maybe business owners do this, I have not come across one yet, but if I own a business in town and one of my kids is taking over the business with me, do I make him buy out the other kids? Why do we treat businesses different than we treat farms? Why do we feel like the other kids deserve something because they were born there? I don't understand. I don't feel like I deserve anything just because I was born there. My brother is the one farming it. He's the one helping. He's the one helping my folks. He's the one that's going to have to take them to doctor's appointments because he's there. Right? So people say, well, can I do this? Can I do this, Mary Jo? Could we do this? You can do whatever the heck you want to do. An estate planner is there just to guide you along the way. And most estate planners are there to keep everything fair or equal. And yet, should we have an estate planner or should we have a mediator saying, explain to me why you feel like you deserve something? You left when you were 18 years old. You've never come back to do anything, right? You're second generation. I've run into this. We're second generation. They don't even know where the farm or the ranch is. They have no idea, but they want top dollar. You don't even know where it's at, but you want money from it? At what point, why wouldn't we just do a contract for deed? Why are we so adamant about making sure that everybody is equal and everybody is fair? Why don't we put on our big boy pants and say, you know what? Junior is here every single day working. He's helping. He's taking over. We're doing a contract for deed. Whatever we have left, we get to decide how we want to divvy that up. But he's buying it from us because we built this operation to sell it. We built it to see that the next generation has an opportunity. Because if we just rent it to the next generation, they have no collateral to get an operating note. They have no collateral to buy equipment, nothing. No collateral. Because it's just rented ground. So why not do a contract for deed? And why not do a contract for deed that says if we die, then we're selling it to you for X amount of money. The estate has to be paid out for the rest of it. If mom and dad say, no, I don't want to buy a life insurance policy, then great. The next generation should be buying that policy to buy out the siblings if they pass away before the third, or to buy out the siblings, yes, or to buy out the estate, if they pass away over the next 30 years, before the next 30 years are up, or whatever the term is that you guys come up with. It could be 40 years, it could be 100 years, it could be 5 years. I really don't care. It is whatever you guys agree on, okay? Like, I know this is crazy and that I might be talking out of context, but I am talking from the aspect of an off-the-farm kid who sees the numbers every single day and don't quite understand. We rent it and then we expect them to buy it. When we were farming, did we always just want to rent it? And I'm not talking about, oh, I got a good deal on rent. No. Most times, rent is a lot cheaper than a purchase price, right? I am talking about we are renting it for what it costs mom and dad to live, which basically ends up being a 30-year note and the purchase price. That is what a payment would be on a 30-year note. I've ran this example tons of times. Oh, this is what mom and dad need to live. Guess what? That's the same amount you're paying for rent because they will need that purchase price, the sale price, in order to live. Okay. And then let's talk about, I don't know that I've talked about this before, but in this estate planning process, most estate planners will say you need a second to die policy. So we're going to have a policy on mom and dad's life, but it's only going to pay out last to die. So the last one that dies and it gets paid out. Oh, for the love of Pete, I have no idea why anybody writes these policies. I have yet to find a good reason for them. So with these current clients, we have a last to die policy. Oh, well, that's just absolutely fantastic. What if dad dies? What if dad dies first because he's in the worst health? Could we not just, if dad would have had a policy on himself, we could have just bought mom out? We could have just settled everything up or vice versa. But nope, now we can't do absolutely anything. Absolutely anything. Because dad passed away first. And who was still out there helping me? Everyday farm. Even though I took over the operation, even though I have all the operating expenses, even though I was renting the ground, even though I was buying it out from them, whatever the case, guess who was helping me every single day? Dad. Guess who passed away first? Dad. Guess who I did not get paid on? Dad. My hired man just died, and I don't have any death benefit to replace him because somebody sold me this last to die policy. And oh, well, we'll do a last to die policy because one of them isn't super healthy. Mom just had cancer, dad just had cancer, whatever. We're going to take the average of the two. So mom's super healthy, dad's not healthy. We're going to average that premium out where mom is preferred health, dad is standard. Oh, we're going to go in the middle. So now we're paying higher premiums on mom because dad wasn't healthy, right? We're paying lower premiums on dad because mom was healthy. So we just averaged them, kind of like our healthcare system today. So we're going to average those out. Well, guess what? When dad dies and mom lives another 15 years, we're paying too high of premiums for the next 15 years on mom because we're being penalized because dad used to be on that policy. They don't reevaluate the premiums and say, oh, hey, guess what? Now dad passed away. We don't have that risk anymore. We only had one risk anyway. And the real risk was mom because we pretty much knew actuarially she was going to outlive dad. So why didn't we just buy a policy on mom then and pay less premiums that whole entire time? Moral of the story, we make this very complicated. We make estate planning very complicated. And I personally do not feel that it needs to be that complicated. Will I at some point have an expert on here? An expert, because I'm not an expert. In this scenario, will I at some point have an expert on the accounting side and on the attorney side? Yes, I will. But for right now, I just needed to get it off my chest, you guys. I see this all the time. I just need a parent parents need to get over this guilt trip that they need to leave something to the off-the-farm kids. That's different. Every scenario is a little different. But if those off-the-farm kids disappeared at 18 and did nothing to help, really? If they come back every weekend and they help, okay, great. If dad calls and he needs somebody to fix fence, great. They're coming back, they're helping. But if they have nothing to do with it and they show up here and there, why do you feel the need that if you sold the farm kid the land, why do you feel the need that they still should get a death benefit? Why do they still deserve something when the farm kid paid his dues? He bought the ground, bought and paid for, bought his own equipment. You didn't give him anything by the time you pass. It has been 20, 30 years, and you have not put a dime into that farm. He's purchased it. Why do the others deserve anything? If they deserve anything, it's from the profit that you made on the land, that you manage that money, and you can share it with them and not the farm kid if you want. You can share it with all three if you want. We are doing what everybody else does because society has taught us that is what farmers do. If my parents' estate plan says, Mary Jo, you get nothing, your brother is going to get everything because he was here, okay. Guess what? I am not waiting for my mom and dad to die to have money. I'm building my business. I'm helping other people. I'm doing what I need to do to make a living. I'm not sitting here waiting for them to go so that I can go buy my lake cabin. I can go buy my vacation home. I can go buy my, Camaro, right? I'm not waiting for that. I'm figuring out how I can do those things if I want to before they pass away. Because let's be honest, my mom's side of the family lives to be like 300 years old. Like, she's not going anywhere anytime in the near future unless it's a crazy accident. They live forever. So just all I'm saying is think about it. Think about what the estate planners are telling you. Does it have to be done that way? Question it. Talk to each other about it. Talk to the family about it. If there is no talking, then we're in plan B. And we're going to have to look out for ourselves. But if you have a family that talks about it, if you have a family that's done some estate planning, they're obviously willing to do some estate planning. Look at the big picture. Why should I take over the policy? Why not just buy it? Why do I need to rent it? Why should the other kids get anything? If you all agree that they should have something, fantastic, whatever. It's your plan. You do it your way. I just ask, do we buy it through rent and then we buy it again when we're 60 years old? Because I got farmers right now who are 60, and I'll tell you right now, they're not buying it. They are not buying it. Family has died, and now it's their turn to buy, and they're not buying it. Instead, they're trying to figure out how their kids can buy it because they don't want the debt at 60. They don't want the debt at 65. So all the way around, young, old, in between, let's give each other a little bit of grace, a little bit of understanding, and be able to talk to each other about it. You guys, I get being a hothead. I come from a long line of hotheads. I get it. But sometimes we have to take a breath and have to look at other people and where they're at in their shoes and make a plan. Okay, that is all I have to say today. Thank you for listening and tuning in. And if you have not read my book, Farming Without the Bank, you can go to farmingwithoutthebank.com and get it there. It is also on audio, and you can get the bundle, my book and the audio, and download it, listen to it. Everybody seems to like the audio because they can listen while they're out feeding, in the tractor, cutting hay, whatever it is that they're doing. So thank you very much for tuning in. Please pass this along to any friends that you have that are farming that want to do something a little bit different. People need to be aware of this so that we can save these family farms and we can kind of change this mindset of what farming has been. Okay, y'all, you have a fantastic rest of your day and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Farming Without the Bank podcast. We hope today's episode has inspired you to take control of your finances in new ways. Don't forget to check out our website, farmingwithoutthebank.com, and engage with us on our Facebook page, Farming Without the Bank. Join us next week as we smash more financial myths and empower you to accomplish your financial goals.